Hello, hello. Hope you are all doing well. I am a couple of minutes late today. Today is my kid's first day of school, so I feel all out of sorts. Let me hop on my phone real quick and let's just make sure that this is actually streaming. We are going live in my Facebook group, The Profit Factor, and we're also live on the YouTube channel of The Profit Factor. So let's make sure. Yep. Let me just check the volume. Yes. All right. Perfect. Oh, we have 3 people on. As you guys know, I have been battling the algorithm since I started doing my live trainings again. I was really devoted to doing them last year, and then I stopped in February of this year, and we just picked back up again. And the Facebook algorithm is not liking me. So if you are here, say hello. Please grant StreamYard permission for me to see your name. This way I know who I'm talking to, but I can see there's now 4 people on. Yay. So if you are new here, my name is Danae Wolf. I am a financial clarity coach and a profit strategist. So what the heck does that mean? Well, it means that I help entrepreneurs increase their profits so you can decrease your stress. I firmly believe that if you don't know what's going on in your bank account, you don't know what's going on in your business. So I really like to help empower entrepreneurs to understand the money side of their business. Looks like we have some oh, they both say Facebook user. So I can't actually tell who it is. I'll hop onto the app on my phone to see if I can possibly tell. Yeah, I can't see who it is. You guys have to grant StreamYard permission, and then I can see your name. So today we are talking all about estimated taxes. And this is probably one of the questions I get asked the most. I think that most of you in your entrepreneurial journey have encountered this topic of estimated quarterlies, right? But I think most of you are still like, I have no idea what it is. I don't know how to calculate it. I don't know how to pay it. So today I'm going to make sure that we break it all down. All right. I'm going to explain to you exactly what these quarterly taxes are, how to calculate them, and how to pay them in less time than it takes you to drink your cup of coffee. Okay. It's not something that is overly complicated. And I think that a lot of times when we hear the T word, right? When we hear taxes, our brain immediately just goes into that fight or flight, right? We definitely just immediately feel overwhelmed. And quarterlies are not that bad, okay? So stick with me here, and I'm going to get all the bases covered, and I'm going to share my screen in a little bit to really make sure that you guys know exactly what you're doing. Ooh, there's 7 people on this live training now. We are moving on up. All right, so let's start with the basics. All right, your quarterly taxes, all right, the quarterly taxes, they are based on your profits of your company. So here is how I want you guys to think about quarterly taxes. I want you to, for a moment, put back on your employee hat. Remember when you had a normal job and you worked for a company, when you got paid, you had your gross pay, right? And that's not really what you got to take home, right? They always remove taxes. And then you had your net pay. So in its most simplistic terms, as an entrepreneur, you can think of your business's profit as your gross paycheck if you were an employee. All right. So back when you had a job, you had gross wages, you had to pay taxes, and you got your net pay. Now that you're an entrepreneur, you can think of the profit in your business as your gross paycheck, right? So what happens with our gross paycheck? We've got to set aside taxes. Those taxes are your quarterlies. If you had a job working for an employee or an employer, you would have those taxes automatically withheld from your paycheck every time you got paid. Well, now that you're an entrepreneur, you don't have that. So what the government says is for entrepreneurs, they want you to make those tax payments quarterly because the government isn't getting your taxes from your paycheck every 2 weeks. So instead, they've set up a system in order to make sure that entrepreneurs pay their taxes each quarter. So that's really what the quarterlies that you keep hearing about, that's what they are. In its most simplistic form, it's taking the profit of your business, which is essentially your gross pay, and setting aside taxes for it, right? And because you don't have an employer, because you're an entrepreneur, you've got to pay them yourself. So when you had a job, your boss took care of the taxes for you, right? With the payroll company. But now you're your own boss, so you have to plan and account for those taxes. So that is what our quarterlies are. So instead of paying them every single time we get paid, we just do it quarterly. And it is based on our profit. That a lot of times entrepreneurs will ask me, well, what is my gross pay? How do I know what I owe taxes on? It's the profit of your company. Now, I know a lot of you are probably going to say, I don't know what my profit is. Well, don't worry. I've got you covered with my free profit plan, and I'll go ahead and drop it right in the comments here for you guys. But if you're listening on the podcast, you can get it in the show notes. But the URL is thechicCFO.mykajabi.com/profit plan. It's completely free and it's going to help you calculate your profit. And again, remember, we want to think of the profit as our gross pay. So we're going to owe taxes on that profit. Now, what I'm sure you guys have also heard when it comes to quarterly taxes, what do we call them? We call them estimated quarterly taxes. So our estimated quarterly taxes are exactly what they say they are. They're estimates. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs make a mistake. You may or may not have been in this situation before, but have you ever done your taxes at the end of the year and found out that you owe thousands of dollars in taxes? And you're like, wait a minute, I paid my estimates all year. My accountant told me exactly what to pay, and I made that payment every quarter. Well, here's the thing. The way that the estimated quarterlies are calculated is actually based on last year's profits. So bear with me here. I'm going to walk you through all of this because I know it can be really confusing. Let's say that last year, 2020, your profits for your business were $10,000, right? Let's just say that they were $10,000. So you owe about $3,000 in taxes. So your accountant is going to tell you to make those payments every quarter. However, when you file your taxes in 2021, you might find out that your profits in 2021 were $20,000, making them double what they were last year. You only paid estimated quarterly taxes based on last year's numbers, which means you owe the difference because your profits were much higher this year. So whenever you're working off of estimates, they're based on last year's numbers, right? Now, here's what I want you to know about estimates. You're responsible to pay the minimum, okay, is the estimate. So let's say 2021, your profits are much higher. As long as you made those estimated payments, right, that's the minimum, you're not going to have any penalties because the IRS says you at minimum paid what you paid us last year. Here's your bill that you still owe for 2021, but there's no penalties attached. But let's say that 2021 was a busier year and you didn't make your estimated payments. Now, not only do you have a large tax bill, but you also have penalties because the law is that at minimum, you have to pay your estimates. Your estimates are based on last year's numbers. There's a couple of things I want to point out with this. Number one, if your profits are much higher this year, you need to be prepared and aware because paying your estimates is not going to cut it. You're going to owe more money. The other side of this is, let's say this year is way worse, right? Which, knock on wood, I hope that's not the case for you. But let's say profits are down. Well, if we make those estimated payments, we're honestly paying too much. So, what I like to do is have you make actual payments. All right. So, that estimate is based on last year. What I would love to have you do is make payments based on the actuals for the year. So for my clients, we calculate their tax liability each and every quarter so that they know exactly what to pay. So it's not an estimate, it's based on an actual. This way, at the end of the year, they're not going to get slapped with any penalties or a tax bill that they were not prepared for. Now, in order to do that, you're going to want to go ahead and download my profit plan. It's going to walk you through how you are able to calculate your taxes and pay them in actuals, right? So it's not based on an estimate. But let me be clear, if you're just looking to avoid penalties, you're going to go ahead and just make those estimated payments. But if you're anything like me, I'm an actual kind of girl. All right. I want to know, how much do I actually owe? Not what's my estimate based on last year's numbers. And in order to do that, you're going to have to know what your profit is, right? I tell you guys all the time, if you don't know what's happening in your bank account, you don't know what's happening in your business. So I want you to be in there calculating your profits each and every month. And what I typically use as a rule of thumb is that when we make our quarterly tax payments, we're going to send 25% of our profit to the IRS for the federal taxes. And then we're going to send 5% to our state. Now, some of you might live in a state that doesn't have income tax. And if that's you, don't worry about that part of it, right? But if you live in a state that does collect, you want to set aside 5% and send that over to your state. Now, what I want to point out is that a lot of times because it's, they're called quarterly taxes, a lot of times we encounter entrepreneurs that are not actually aware of how the due dates work. And guys, full transparency here, I was not aware of how the due dates work. Okay. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know my entrepreneurial journey. You know that the reason why I got into small business accounting is because I opened up a quick service restaurant and almost got evicted. So I learned the hard way how to manage my money. And one of the things that really threw me for a loop, because I had heard you owe taxes quarterly, I assumed it was, January, February, March is quarter one. I'd pay it in April. April, May, June is quarter two. I'd pay it. That's how I thought it would work and how it would progress. And guess what? Turns out that is not the case. So I want to go over the actual payment dates for you guys, because I think I would say the majority of entrepreneurs that I encounter don't actually realize the way that the payment periods work. So January 1st to March 31st is due April 15th. So what does that mean? It means that the profit of your company, January 1st to March 31st, that is essentially your gross income, as though you were an employee. You owe taxes on that profit, and it's due April 15th. Now, quick caveat here. Each year, the due dates might be a little bit different depending on the day of the week that the due date lands, right? So you're always going to want to pull what are the quarterly tax dates for 2021, for 2022, just so that you can be aware of it. And here's my tip, guys. Throw it in your calendar. All right. We actually have an automated email that goes out to our clients letting them know, hey, here's the next due date, right? So make sure you get it in your calendar and you're informed. But first quarter, January 1st to March 31st, calculate your profit, send 25% to the IRS, send 5% to your state. Again, those percentages are a general rule of thumb. If you want your actual percentages, please speak to your tax preparer, because this video is strictly for educational purposes, right? I'm not giving you guys tax advice. Hashtag disclaimer. All right. Now let's talk about the next period. April 1st to May 31st. That's due June 15th. Anybody sitting here going, what the F? Because I know for me, I was like, wait, what? Because here's what happened to me when I started my entrepreneurial journey. I said, April, May, June would be the second quarter. So I just assumed it would be due July 15th. Turns out second quarter is not a quarter at all. It's April 1st to May 31st. So again, you're going to calculate that profit and you're going to pay it June 15th. After that, you're going to calculate your profit for June 1st to August 31st. That's going to be due September 15th. And then to close it off, you're going to go September 1st to December 31st, and that is going to be due January 15th of the following year. So those periods are a bit wonky, right? Because we call them quarterly taxes, and yet they don't follow the quarterly calendar dates as we know it. So that was something I was super excited to explain to you guys today, because at least I know for me, when I was starting my entrepreneurial journey, I was like, what is happening? And I'll be honest, when my tax preparer sent me that information, I said, there's no way that's right. Like, I actually questioned his intelligence. I was like, this man does not know how the calendar works. That's how it is. That's how it is. I guess the IRS doesn't know how the calendar works, but that is something you guys definitely want to know. So now you know how the periods work, right? So you know when they're due. You also know how to calculate it, right? How do we calculate it, guys? We pull our profit. We're going to do 25% to the IRS. We're going to do 5% to the state. Again, those are rule of thumb. You're going to want to speak to your tax preparer to get your actual percentages. Now let's talk about how to pay them, all right? Because the idea of filing a tax and paying it ourselves, I get it. It sounds so incredibly overwhelming. But here's what I want you to know. It's so easy. It is so easy. And if you're anything like me and you get a little bit spazzed out when you have to do something really important, like for me, guys, I can't even like book our family vacations because I feel like my hand starts to shake on the mouse and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to like spell my kid's name wrong and he's not going to get on the plane. Like, I hate doing anything that I feel is such a big deal. And I promise you, paying these taxes is so easy. Now, I obviously don't have time to go down every single state, right? So here's what I want to tell you when it comes to paying your state. I just want you to go to your department or your division of revenue, right? So I live in Delaware, so I can go to the Delaware Division of Revenue, whatever state, you want to contact the Division of Revenue. 99% of the time, you're going to be able to just find it on their website. How do I make my estimated payments? Okay. But I can tell you, I have called plenty of states' Division of Revenue. They're 90% of the time, I'm not going to say 100, 90% of the time, the people working there are very kind. They're used to getting phone calls with spazzed out entrepreneurs asking a lot of questions, and they will hold your hand and show you exactly how to navigate their website and make the payment. But for the IRS, I am going to show you exactly what to do. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And I'm going to walk you through this. So first up on the screen, you can see my profit plan. So this is what I want you guys to go ahead and download. I'm going to link it below. It's going to be in the show notes as well. This is completely free. It's going to help you calculate your profit, all right? Because we have to start with that. Then this is how you're going to pay the IRS. All right. And this document that you're seeing here, this is one of the trainings that we do in my online course, Profit Perfect. And it's just a really important part of managing your finances. So in my course, we have a dedicated module to it. But here is a little bit of the behind the scenes in Profit Perfect. This is the infographic that my students get. So you can see that the first thing you do is you go to irs.gov/payments. And I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen for you. All right. And then once you're logged into the IRS, you're going to go to click on Make Payments. All right. And then you're going to click the blue box for Make a Payment. And then what you're going to do is select estimated tax, all right, as your reason for payment. And then you'll be able to say that you're going to apply the payment to 1040 ES, and you'll go ahead and select your tax payment period, right? Which would be whatever, maybe you're paying January, February, March, right? Maybe you're paying April, May, whatever the period is that you're paying it for. And then you'll fill out your payment information, right? So this is your routing number, your account number, whatever your banking information is. And then you'll type in the payment, and then you just do an electronic signature. That's all. You hit submit payment and you are good to go. Your quarterly taxes have been paid. Now, I have some quick tips for you here as well. So in QuickBooks, when these payments come out, right, you've paid them out of your business checking account, I want to make sure that you guys know they have to be categorized as your personal draw, right? It's not a business expense. Remember, your profit is essentially your gross paycheck. So the taxes you're paying on it are the taxes you owe. That's not your business's expense. It's for you as an individual. All right. So we're going to make sure that that expense is properly coded as owner's draw. What I like to do, because I get a little bit micro when it comes to organizing money, we're going to label it as quarterly taxes, right? This way, when you look at your equity account on your balance sheet, you can say, hey, here's all my draws. Here's all my tax payments. And what does that tell us? Essentially, there's my taxes and there's my net paycheck, right? Those draws end up being your net paycheck. And then, of course, right here is all of the information about the due dates, which I gave you guys over on the banner at the bottom of the screen, right? So I pulled up these that January 1st to March 31st due April 15th. April 1st to May 31st is due June 15th. June 1st to August 31st is due September 15th. And September 1st to December 31st is due January 15th. So I hope that this training was beneficial. I promise you it is quick and painless. The website is very easy to navigate. You type in your bank account information and you'll be able to pay it. And I think if you can just make the commitment to get these dates on your calendar, right? Pencil it in. Say, hey, I'm going to calculate first quarter on such and such a date. I'm going to log in and make the payment on such and such a date. Get it in your calendar. If you're like me, if it's not in my calendar, it's not happening, right? So go ahead and do that. Stay ahead of the game. Let's get this done. This is a part of being an entrepreneur, right? Like this is the stuff that's kind of that housekeeping that isn't fun, but guys, it's a requirement. Okay, it is a requirement. So let's stay compliant. Let's get it done. And I promise it's not as hard as it looks. So I hope you enjoyed this today. I hope you will go download my free profit plan so that you can go ahead and properly calculate your profit so that you can make actual quarterly payments instead of just paying those estimates, because then you could be in a situation where you overpaid or underpaid. And when it comes to the IRS, we want to pay the exact amount we owe and not a penny more. I will talk to you guys soon.